Abhay, it's such a pleasure to have you on Now Binging. And as the name suggests, this is a show about your binging habits and how the films and the shows that you watch sort of shape you as an artist. Now, I'm very intrigued because I read that even when you were an impressionable child, you were watching Blade Runner and Bimal Roy and Guru Dutt. I mean, how did this happen?
I don't know. Like, I do remember being, so I don't remember Pyasa, but I remember being very affected by it. And Guru Dutt was kind of sort of embossed in my head after that. And I must have been really young because I don't remember the movie, but I just remember the emotion. So now when I see his face and I see that poster, I feel the emotions again. And I just, as an adult, didn't understand why. Of course, when I grew older and I read more about him, I was like, oh, okay, it was obviously a very dramatic feature. And that's why I was so affected by it. Then The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. Of course, I was really young and it was scary, but there was a thrill in that fear that I remember.
So how did that, Abhay, sort of inspire you or shape you? Did anything you saw in these films directly influence your decision to become an actor?
I always loved acting. And the reason why I would say I don't want to be an actor as a kid was because anybody who came home, whether a friend or a relative, because we were filmmakers, said, oh, you beta bada hoke hero banega. Like, they were always like, you're going to be an actor. And I was like, I don't want to be taken for granted. I just denied myself wanting to be an actor. It was only when I was 19 and I changed. My foundation year was in fine art, and I changed from that to a 2-year college. And I was like, and I did some theater classes, and I was like, you know what, this is what I love doing, and that's what I want to do. But I thought, okay, why not? I mean, I met Imtiaz, and when I read Sochanatha and I took him to my brother, I thought, this is a nice balance because at least it's strong on content. At least I can relate to the characters. So it was about trying to keep my experience as a child and as a young adult intact, the individuality that I had formed, and still kind of be able to show that, project that in the films I do. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I was going to do it.
Right. Yeah. Tell me now, as a viewer, Abhay, can you lose yourself in the movies or the narratives you see? Or are you always watching as an actor?
This is a critic's question, isn't it? Because it's been ruined for you, right? You have to constantly be like, I want to get into it, but at the same time, I have to be a critic, right?
Yeah. I have to take notes.
Yeah, I know, and as a filmmaker, you don't have to, but you just can't help but.
Yeah.
Because so, I mean, this is something we both can relate to. Yeah, you know how it is. It's, I think on one level get into it. Sometimes I'm not looking at it from a lens of a filmmaker, not all of the time. Especially if it grabs my attention, then I'm willing to. But I have to be honest, if it does lose my attention, maybe not for just a brief moment, but if it does lose my attention for a longish time, then I start looking at the faults, or rather then I'm out of it and then I'm looking at it just, no, I wouldn't say as a critic, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you've lost me now. So now I'm just watching the faults. I'm not watching, I'm not into it. No, that does happen.
Sorry. But I mean, when you're watching a performance, can you pick up specific things from it as an actor? Is that how it works?
Let's just put it this way. If I'm picking up things, then I'm not in it. Right. It's when I'm not, it's really when I'm not picking up things. It's really when I'm just absorbed by the performance is when I'm really taken in by it, because it wasn't that one action that really got me. It wasn't that one gesture that really got me. I was all absorbed in the moment of that actor's performance, and I was not looking at whether this movement added value to the performance or not. The performance as a whole worked, so yeah.
Right.
I really am willing, and I'll, being a filmmaker and actor myself, I really want to give myself to the project that I'm watching, to the people who've made it.
Yeah.
And so once I give myself over, I'm not looking at anything superficial. I'm just in that moment, and that's what defines a good performance for me, when you're not looking at a performance.
Yeah. Tell me, are you a binge watcher?
I wasn't for a long time, but lately I have. Yeah, I have phases where I'm really watching stuff, and then suddenly years go by and I haven't seen anything.
So we're talking, you're in LA, I'm of course in Mumbai. Tell me, all this time you spend shuttling between the two countries, do you keep uh, updated on Indian shows, Indian films, or have you lost touch with that?
Like I said, I didn't watch anything for the longest time.
Hmm.
It's only now that I've started to watch again. So I have not kept in touch with any of the stuff being made in India, to be honest with you. Of course, saw Delhi Crime, which I loved. That was the last show I saw. Um, no, I haven't actually kept up with anything from home. Like I said, I've only just started to make inroads back into watching
Right,
something.
right.
You
So
know?
tell me, Abhay, my sense is that the landscape here is shifting quite dramatically
Mm.
in terms of content, in terms especially because of streaming. The kind of stories that we're watching, the kind of actors who now are getting the spotlight, and it's very exciting. Now,
Oh, yeah.
you are somebody who always said that I'm an Indian actor, or even I'm a Hindi film actor, but not I'm a Bollywood actor. But now that the scenario here is changing, do you see yourself fitting in more?
Definitely more than ever before. Yes, you're right. I've always made a distinction between Bollywood and Hindi cinema. I've always said Bollywood is a genre. When I say Bollywood, what do you think? Songs, dance, beautiful women, muscular men, colors. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's a genre. All of that is Bollywood. When I say Hindi cinema now, it's a dead term, which is what would define cinema from what was called the city of Bombay back then, was Hindi cinema. And so I started to say, like, maybe a Manorama that I've made, I would call it as Hindi cinema. Even an Oilaki in some ways, or a Devdi, because the songs are so much in the background. It's
yeah.
still it's kind of straddling that middle ground, which is what I attempted with this Oilaki, with Socha Natha, even Zindagi Na Milegi
Shanghai,
Dobara. Shanghai is still on middle ground. It's still slightly center left, if you want to call it. Still a little away from the middle. Middle for me
yeah,
would be Devdi. Middle for me would be
sure,
Oilaki. Middle for me
yeah.
would be Zindagi.
Mm,
Socha Natha. These were middle ground films.
mm,
But I did those because as a way to say, like, hey, I'm willing to go this far in the Bollywood space if you come a little this distance in my space, which is not conforming to Bollywood. But that middle of the road cinema was really difficult to make, even though I managed somehow, I think, because the multiplexes were mushrooming at the time. And for a brief moment, there was more exhibition space than there was product. Eventually, of course, the studios and the producers took over, and more screens, and without any government support, there was only so much middle of the road or independent cinema, as I call it, could go. For me,
right.
Manorama, Shanghai, road movie, they're not middle of the road. They were still more towards the side of independent art house, as we call it. And within the industry, arty-farty, because they don't like that stuff. um, and now with the OTT platforms, the exhibition space is limitless. They need to feed
Yeah,
the beast. So while
yeah,
I understand they need to do conformist, formulaic Bollywood stuff because they need subscribers, they can afford to, because they're not confined by just the borders of one culture. They could perhaps, like a Delhi Crime went and won the International Emmy.
yeah,
So they have to see now, where do they want to go? Do they want to continue to take chances? Because if you want to win an Emmy, you can't think about subscribers in India. You've got to
right.
think about the world.
Mm,
Ironically, getting the Emmy may get you subscribers in India, but to get there first, you have to not think about subscriptions. You have
mm,
to
mm,
think about creativity, and you have to sort of take a chance. Um, and I think a lot of them are doing that. Netflix with the Delhi Crime, for example. Amazon is of course out there doing all sorts of shows. We have Disney Hotstar, local
yeah,
ones as well,
yeah,
who have
yeah,
a chance now. And now, as you said, actors, there's Shefali Shah and Pankaj Tripathi and all of these wonderful,
yeah.
amazing talent out there that is finally getting the spotlight. Because see, even another part of the Bollywood formula was you have the hero and heroine, as we call
Mm.
them, and everybody else around them was padding. You've heard all these terms,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
and
Yeah,
they were true.
yeah,
Why is it that the friend or the uncle or the mother or the father are so stereotyped in cinema? Because they're just there to pad the main
mm,
leads, to make
mm,
them look. Now, finally, these actors who played that were, of course, worth a lot more than that, because, now they're getting a chance to be in the center, and it's not about them. They're strong characters. They may be the central character, but they inhabit a world where each character is sort of realistically portrayed, which has always been my in cinema in Bollywood. So the OTT platforms are not vulnerable to ticket sales.
Yeah.
They're vulnerable to subscribers. And yes, sure, the kind of people who inhabit South Bombay and Delhi and Bangalore may not represent a large part of the interior of the country. But as the internet has expanded into these areas, as progress has reached certain places, smaller towns, and as they have access to content from all around the world, I'm telling you, even the smaller towns aren't as uninformed and ignorant and
Absolutely. As we think,
I think they are. And it's hard for people in a position of power to embrace that, to see that. Because there's a lot of money riding on these things. And it's so much more comfortable to take XYZ star and sell it before, pocket the profits, and then have a share on sales. What are you going to do? It's a business before it's an art for a lot of people.
Yeah.
For me, it's been an art before it's a business.
Yeah. Your Twitter bio says politically incorrect, a dying breed.
I have. Sorry, go on.
No, I have to ask you: have you paid a price, Abhay, for being politically incorrect?
Oh yeah, for sure I have, and not just for being politically incorrect, but for speaking truth to power. Nobody likes that guy who kind of says, "Hello, look at this," rings the bell and shines a light on something that's not right. Whether it be endorsements of fairness products or the rights of writers and musicians. In an industry that is so small, that is so contained within a few, you pay a price for that. And that's why I said when I was young, I was ideal. I'm not saying I'm not an idealist right now. I still want to keep my individuality intact, and I wouldn't change a thing if I was to go back in time. But I can definitely say to my younger self that speaking truth to power has its consequences, and be ready to live with them at the end of the day. But I'd rather live with something I believed in than something I don't.
Yeah.
That is conforming and then becoming a star. Because I've seen that too. I've seen what stardom is right from childhood around me with my family. And I've seen that it doesn't necessarily make you happy. At the end of the day, for me personally, being true to who I am made me much happier, and at least made an attempt to do something outside of the box and call out a formula was far more satisfying than being a star, being paid bucket loads of money, and then being in a space where I know I'm bored. A lot of these guys are bored. A lot of these actors are bored. It's just like riding a cycle going to set. Just change the actress, change the choreographer. It's the same dance routine.
Okay, tell me, Abhay, if you had to recommend 3 must-watches, what would they be? Your 3 defining films, shows, anything.
Anything that Stanley Kubrick ever made. I think in a world driven with war, the fear of nuclear war, I've always mentioned Dr. Strangelove, because I think it's a great parody on the politics of war. It still stands true today. If you like popular cinema, all of the Indiana Jones or the series or Back to the Future, I remember those classics. I think they still stand well. I used to love watching the cinema of Pedro Almodovar. I haven't visited it lately. I haven't seen anything that he's done recently, but Talk to Her, All About My Mother, those were interesting lot. When you put on a spot.
That's great. That's a lot. And if you liked Almodovar, Pain and Glory is just stunning.
Pain and Glory is nice. I haven't seen it.
Beautiful.
Tim Burton, I love Tim Burton. Beetlejuice. I could watch that anytime. Dark comedies. I think dark comedies is something I've really always enjoyed and made an attempt to make. And that was tough in back at home, because in an environment where they spoon feed you, dark comedy is much harder to do.
We're going to end with a very quick round of questions that I'm just going to pull out of here. This is our bucket round, and it's about shows and stuff. No, don't be afraid. Which film would you recommend that a family can watch together?
Chupke Chupke.
Oh, love.
Yeah.
What's a test movie for you, Abhay? A film that can make or break a friendship. Like you can't be friends with somebody who doesn't love X.
Interesting question. Let's just say Doctor Strangelove. Why not? How can you not like it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it
Yeah.
then.
A
It's
Full
over.
Metal Jacket. Let's say Full Metal Jacket. Better. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's one of your films that you recommend that people should watch?
One of mine?
Yeah.
One of mine. Shanghai.
I love. Abhay, thank you so much. It's been such a
Thank you.
pleasure to catch up with you after so many
And you.
years.
Yeah, it's been a while. We should do it more often.
Yes, take care and come home
All right.
soon.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Watch your favorite shows and movies from 11 entertainment apps all at one place on the big screen of your TV with Tata Sky Binge. To know more, click on the link in the description.